cut off. Yeah.
I mean, like, half of my body's cut off. Are you still gonna bitch? I'm dying! Anyway. Whatever. Yeah, but, I mean, this is how the setup was this time. It's all good in the hood. So, you're gonna take through the first one, and you want me to...
Sure, I'll take that off.
Alright, can this fuck off? Can, like, all these shitty sidebars fuck off?
They can. You must
kind of
see
did.
ads.
Kind of.
ISIS clings to last tiny urban patches of crumbling caliphate. An Iraqi commander says ISIS militants are in a fight to the death as his forces close in on their last foothold in the northern city of Mosul, while in Syria, US-backed forces breached the wall around Raqqa's old city, a major advance in the weeks-old battle to drive ISIS out of the self-declared caliphate, or capital. Together, the advances show ISIS's death grip on the two most important urban strongholds of their self-declared Islamic caliphate coming loose. General Abdel Ghani al-Assad, the head of Iraq's special forces, said his troops were just 250 yards from the Tigris River on Tuesday, after taking Mosul's main hospital compound from ISIS the day before. As you can see, they've pretty much retaken Mosul. They are really just stuck in a handful of blocks. It's very impressive. He said militants are increasingly resorting to suicide bombings. He expects the fighting to get even heavier as they're pushed closer to the river. Iraqi forces launched the operation to retake Mosul, the country's second largest city, in October. Brett McGurk, the U.S. envoy to anti-ISIS...
Coach McGurk? What? From Home Movies? No. Carry on.
Said Tuesday in a tweet, why is the U.S. military tweeting out information? Okay.
Fuck if I know. It's a good question. I guess they're following Donald Trump's leadership. Tweet out all the shit. We're coming from you bad boys. We're gonna get you. As I'm actually working on tweeting right now.
That militants remained in only control of about a square half-mile of Mosul. The Iraqi defenseman, that's like 2 or 3 football fields. I don't know, a half mile? Maybe more. A couple football fields.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with like 8.
8 football fields? Because each football field is supposed to be like 100 yards, I think.
300.
Is it 300? Yeah. Well, there you go. I mean, 3,000 yards is a mile.
Like the track, it's a quarter mile.
Mm-hmm. It takes four circular track runs to be a mile.
Yeah. So by 8. So
how many miles is it? 2 and some change miles there? Or 2 football fields, it said?
No. Well, it would take 2 football fields, yes. So it would take 8 football fields for a half mile? Or for a full mile?
It would take 4
for a half mile.
Is it 4 for a half?
Yeah. No, it's 4 for... Yeah, it's 4 for a half.
It's 4, I guess 4, yeah,
Yeah.
No, it's 4 for a full, dude.
No, it's 4 for a half.
Because each circle is a 40.
Each circle is, you get to split that circle in half to get like the football field, which is a quarter, which is in half of a quarter of a mile. So then 2 of them would be a quarter mile. That's what 4 would be a half
Why didn't
mile.
you just take the whole block of a football field and the circle encompassing it, which is a quarter of a mile, and then just put 4 of those? Yeah. And you would have a mile. A square mile, probably.
I suppose it's a 4 football field.
There you go.
That's what I said the first time.
You just said 8, and I was like, what are you talking about?
I said 4.
8 halves. Why did you complicate it? Like, okay, so you take a half of a half of a half, and you take another half, and then you times it by 1,000, and that's what you get. No.
Well, I only work in metric.
Because it would only be too easy if we worked in metric. We have to be the only ones around to not work in metric.
I'm telling you, man, it's terrible that we don't. Well, us and like freaking...
But see, our people are so stupid, like, people would want to go 20 kilometers an hour metric at this point. And you know how slow that would be?
Yes, it's going to be like about 10, 15 miles an hour.
I think it's actually like 5.
Well,
it's something. 20 kilometers an hour is really slow.
12.
It's 12. Okay. That's still too slow.
Okay, we're getting off topic.
Yeah. But we're getting off on the best topic.
Yep. The Iraqi Defense Ministry said 2 senior ISIS fighters were captured trying to flee from western Mosul to the town of Kayara.
Where the hell are you?
Yeah, right down
Here?
there. No, the paragraph up from that.
Here, this one?
Yeah, that one.
Okay.
See, one of them was described as an administrative official, and the other was allegedly a top bomb-making expert. I just love ISIS as administrative. They must have AAs. They're admin assistants working for ISIS.
They're
go get me some coffee. Also, go behead that guy. Gotta get that done before noon.
They're also probably like, 12-year-old little girls that they rape and stuff like that, to be honest.
I don't know if they don't trust women.
I mean,
women are only good for cleaning, cooking, housemaking, and raping.
it sounds like in that list should be like bitch work.
No, they wouldn't trust women to do AA work. They'd be like, you're a woman, you don't know how to do AA.
That's good for them because that's just boring.
They used to do AA work.
Boring person, boring work.
You worked at Walmart.
That actually wasn't boring. I was an overnight stalker, so I did a shit ton of work.
Yeah, you worked at Walmart.
So, it doesn't mean anything.
I'm hating on Walmart people.
I mean, I hate on Walmart itself. There's nothing wrong with the people. It taught me some very good, valuable lessons in life. Service industry ass. Service industry sucks. But that's about it.
That's what I was trained to be nice to service people.
Yeah. I mean, that's basically what it taught me. It was like, man, it sucks to be these people. It also continued to affirm my belief that the people overnight are usually treated like shit, and the people during daytime shifts don't do any work anywhere.
Yeah, because the day shift is just like, I'm doing the barest minimum possible and leave it off for the night shift.
That's exactly what happens. That's how it worked at the restaurant I worked at. That's how it worked at fucking Walmart. That's how it works in life in general.
Yep.
We are the night people, though.
U.S. Central Command said the coalition struck 2 small portions of the historic Rafiq Wall, allowing the Kurdish-led Syrian Democratic Forces to advance into the most heavily fortified portion of the city, bypassing booby traps and snipers. It said the strikes left most of the 2,500-yard wall intact. Well, you know what? Wall's got to come down for progress. What can I say?
Hey, Trump, take a hint.
Rebuild that wall.
Take a hint.
The head, just look at it. Is a wall ever a good idea? Look at the Berlin Wall. That shit came down.
Case in point, yeah.
The head of the Britain-based Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, Rami Abdurrahman, said that the breaching of the wall was the most important development to date in the Battle for Raqqa. He said 3 SDF units advanced toward the wall under air cover, breaking through ISIS defenses, and that heavy clashes were underway. Footage provided by the SDF showed their fighters roaming Al-Sar al-Banat, a historic quarter inside Raqqa's old city. Another unit entered the so-called Baghdad Gate, opening up a second front inside the old city. The U.S. military said ISIS fighters were using the historic wall as a planned position and had planted several explosives at openings. It said that the coalition forces were making every effort to protect civilians and preserve the historic sites. Yes?
No, I was just...
The Kurdish-led Syrian Democratic Forces launched a multi-pronged assault on Raqqa last month after securing the surrounding countryside. On Sunday, U.S.-backed fighters crossed the Euphrates River on the southern edge of the city, completing its encirclement. UN officials say 50,000 to 100,000 civilians remain in the city amid dire conditions. Those who try to escape risk being attacked by ISIS militants or forcibly recruited as human shields.
Ooh,
the next challenge for the U.S. and allied military commanders are preventing ISIS from making a comeback in the territory from which it has been expelled. Also, the Taliban, as the Taliban did in Afghanistan. And to deal with ongoing threats presented by the hundreds of ISIS militants who return from the battlefield to their home nations in the West.
Interesting.
Well, good. We're making extremely good progress against ISIS. And this is good news. Very good news.
If you believe it, that is.
Enhance.
Yeah.
Enhancing. You got super enhance.
Yep. Russia blocks UN condemnation of North Korean missile over ICBM label. United Nations, July 6, Reuters. Fuck you. Russia objected on Thursday to United Nations Security Council condemnation of North Korea's latest rocket launch because the U.S. drafted statement referred to it as an intercontinental ballistic missile. Diplomat said.
Let me describe the definition of an intercontinental ballistic missile.
Korean missile! Continue.
It is a missile that, by definition, can reach over 2,500 kilometers. Their missile went up about 5,000 kilometers and out approximately, I think it was about 3,000.
Was it? I think it was like 500 miles.
It's 700 miles, but to kilometers, it's like 528 miles, which is...
Math is hard.
Which is 849 kilometers. So it went up and out together, enough to be called an ICBM. So Russia is just being obstinate because North Korea is their ally.
Yep. Security Council statements have to be agreed on by all 15 members. It was not immediately clear if the United States would continue to negotiate with Russia in an effort to reach a council consensus on a statement of condemnation. Moscow has said it believes Pyongyang fired an intermediate-range ballistic missile on Tuesday, while China has not identified the rocket launched. North Korea said it tested an ICBM, and the United States said that was likely true. So, I mean, if they are saying themselves it's an ICBM, then...
Well, they could be saying that because they want to get the publicity and the political capital of having created an ICBM.
They can say that, but then... That's them. They said it themselves, so like it would work in our favor here. It's like the justice
system. It does work in our favor here in this statement.
Yeah. Yes. So I mean, it's like, well, they all right, Russia. They said they're big and bad. They have ICBMs. Now we're going to have anti-ICBM missiles on your border because America. Fuck yeah. Basically. The rationale is that based on our Ministry of Defense's assessment, we cannot confirm that the missile can be classified as an ICBM, Russia's UN mission said in an email to its Security Council colleagues. Therefore, we are not in a position to agree to this classification on behalf of the whole Council, since there is no consensus on this issue, the email said. The Council met on Wednesday to discuss the missile launched by North Korea, which has been under U.S. sanctions since 2006, over its ballistic missile and nuclear programs. See, obviously they don't give a fuck.
Well, no, of course not. Because, I mean, China probably just ignores the UN sanctions.
The UN is only as powerful as you let it to be. The UN has its own army and has its own everything, yet their stuff is all like old American junk and like old other countries' junk. It's kind of trash.
The UN army is made up of its member nations, with Turkey actually being one of the largest members of the army.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is it doesn't matter. Like the UN army itself is trash.
A peacekeeping army.
Yeah,
that's what they do.
They're the blue helmet guys.
War, they just make sure war doesn't outbreak in a war-torn country.
They still kill people.
I mean, in defense of
who? In defense of who?
I don't know.
In defense of UN's ideals. It's still a war on somebody.
Well, when they go to war-torn countries, they send peacekeepers there to keep the peace between the two warring factions.
Sometimes. But they also send in troops to places sometimes.
I thought they do.
Yeah, they've done it in the past. I feel like, for some reason, I'm thinking the Vietnam War. But maybe, I was thinking there was a war where the Blue Helmets were sent in somewhere. And
there was the Ugandan massacre, or was it Uganda or was it Congo?
I think it was Congo.
I think it was Congo, yeah. And I mean, the UN went there too late, because like every country, because I looked into this, like every country is like, it's not a genocide, nothing's happening there, blah 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 blah. 2 weeks later, millions are dead. They're like, okay, it's genocide, but it's too late, millions are dead. The War Crimes Commission, investigating war crimes. Syria War Crimes. War Crimes Commission. War Crimes Investigators in the Program Chemical Attack. UN Files on the Holocaust. Sealed files of the UN. Probably crimes committed by the UN would be more appropriate.
UN War. That's what I'm looking for here. Combined effort type thing.
Peacekeeping mission?
No, because peacekeeping isn't the words. Because that's to be a peacekeeping force. Yes, I guess combined. War efforts. I don't know. History of the United States peacekeeping. Well, there you go.
Yeah, nations.
First mission in the Middle East to observe and maintain ceasefire. Taking part in 60 missions around the globe, 17 of which continue today. Peacekeeping Corps as a whole, which they do know will be prized. The term peacekeeping is not found in the United Nations Charter. What? It's generally considered to lie in or between Chapter 67. Power to investigate immediate disputes. Plus the power to authorize not doing military sanctions, as well as use the military force to resolve disputes. 63 missions? Is it linked to something?
Yeah. So there's like a big mission in Africa.
Africa, America.
Which is mainly
America.
Africa.
Oh, yeah, Southern, whatever. This is the Congo one, Congo crisis. There you go. Conflict, which is number one.
Angolan Civil War, Namibian War of Independence, Angolian Civil War.
Ooh, in Mozambique, Somalia, Libya,
All these civil wars they got involved in.
Yeah. Strip.
And Angola had like fucking 5 civil wars.
Yeah, Somalia. Central African Republic mutinies. Ooh.
There's not an article on that.
Yeah.
Sierra Leone, Burundi,
Ethiopian, Burundi,
Second Congo War, the Darfur conflict,
Civil War in Chad after
the Second Sudanese Civil War,
Ooh. Operation Power Pack.
the Nicaraguan Civil War.
Wow, that's a lot of fucking people in that. United Nations Observer Group in Central America. Costa Rica, Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, Nicaragua.
Stabilizing Haiti's new democracy.
El Salvador,
After the
Haiti.
1991 coup and military rule.
Yeah, Guatemala Civil War. Training of Haitian National Police. Apparently
3
training
times.
for a lot. That's
Between
interesting.
1997 and 2001.
Netherlands, New Guinea. Wait, what? Is New Guinea part of the
The
Netherlands?
transfer of sovereignty over West New Guinea.
Oh.
So I guess Indonesia must have owned, like, or Netherlands must have owned part of New Guinea or something.
Weird. Indo-Pakistani War, Soviet-Afghan War. That was a big one.
Vietnamese occupation of Cambodia. That was in the 90s.
Yeah, it was just kind of. It's a holiday in Cambodia.
Civil War.
Kyrgyzstan. Indonesian invasion of East Timor like 20 times. 1999, 2002, 2002 to 2005. Apparently, this happened a lot. Like for fucking
Indonesia just like, and we own East
6
Timor.
years they did that straight, and then East Timor, and then it turned into the East Timor crisis. So,
Yeah.
which
Like
6
Indonesia
years?
just back the fuck out.
That was for 6 years.
Yeah.
Bosnia, Herzegovina, Croatia, Republic of Macedonia. My friend's actually most Macedonian.
Yeah. And like, you're talking to TG earlier today, he's from fucking Norwegian.
Who's TG?
Oh, he's a French twist.
Of course. I mean, of course he's some sort of Middle Eastern European or something.
That's actually Slav. That's actually Northern European.
I'm just going to call them all Middle Easterns because of Domino. You've got Mid-Eastern European jizz on my jacket. I don't know if you've ever watched Domino. It's great. Dude has a henchman. It's like Eastern European or something.
Okay, let's get back to the story. Yes, the UN's been involved in tons of peacekeeping missions.
Crisis is, haha! They were part of the Iran-Iraq War and the Gulf War. That's what it was. This is observation and military observer groups.
As a military observer.
I believe they still fired and killed people, though. I don't think they just sat and observed, as far as I know. Because they had to, I believe.
Well, I mean, if they're being attacked, they have a right to defend themselves.
Yeah, well.
Anyways, let's get back to the story. A little history lesson about the UN.
UN Ambassador to the United Nations, Nikki Haley.
I know, we have Nikki Haley. The one who's like, I am not a witch.
Really?
That was her, I think.
I don't know. Denounced Russia's reluctance to recognize that North Korea had test launch in ICBM, which some experts believe has the range to reach the United States of Alaska and Hawaii. Are those like separate United States? I know. This just sounds funny. If you need any sort of intelligence to let you know that the rest of the world sees this as an ICBM, I'm happy to provide it, she told the Security Council on Wednesday. The draft statement said the Council will start work on further significant measures against North Korea, Since 2006, the Council has ratcheted up sanctions on Pyongyang in response to 5 nuclear tests and 2 long-range missile launches. There have been a lot more than that. Haley said on Wednesday the United States would propose new UN sanctions in the coming days and warned that if Russia and China did not support the move, then we will go our own path. She said Washington was ready to use force if we must. Ooh, that's hot. If you are happy with North Korea's actions, veto it. If you want to be a friend to North Korea, veto it. Haley said of her plan to propose new sanctions. That's interesting. There's another story right here. Trump says pledges act strongly, but I don't want to do that.
Yeah, we're not going to do that. It's not on the roster.
It's not on the roster.
Saudi Arabia has clear link to UK extremism, report says. Did anybody think they didn't? You good? Okay. Would you mind getting me another water? Thank you. Saudi Arabia is the chief foreign promoter of Islamist extremism in the UK, a new report has claimed. The Henry Jackson Society said there was a clear and growing link between Islamist organizations in receipt of overseas fund, hate preachers, and jihadist groups promoting violence. The Foreign Affairs think tank called for the public inquiry into the role of Saudi Arabia and other Gulf nations. The Saudi embassy in London said the claims are categorically false. Meanwhile, ministers are under pressure to publish their own report on UK-based Islamist groups. The Home Office report into the existence and influence of jihadist organizations, commissioned by former Prime Minister David Cameron in 2015, has reportedly yet to be completed amid questions as to whether it will ever be published. Critics have suggested it could make uncomfortable reading for the government, which has close and long-standing diplomatic, security, and economic links with the Gulf, particularly Saudi Arabia. The BBC security correspondent, Frank Gardner, said he understood the report was largely finished and sitting there on Theresa May's desk, but there was a reluctance to publish it because of the embarrassing content. Liberal ideology. The Henry Jackson Society is a foreign policy think tank that advocates the robust spreading of liberal democracy, the rule of law, and the market economy. The report says a number of Gulf nations, as well as Iran, are providing financial support to mosques and Islamic education institutions, which have played host to extremist preachers and have been linked to the spread of extremist material. At the top of the list, the report claims is Saudi Arabia, the UK's closest ally in the Middle East and biggest trading partner. It alleges individuals and foundations have been heavily involved in exporting what it calls an illiberal, bigoted, Wahhabi ideology, quoting a number of examples. In a minority case, the report alleges institutions in the UK that receive Saudi funding are running directly from Saudi Arabia, although in most instances the money appears to be simply by foreign donors' influence. For those who don't know, the Saudis practice the most extreme form of Islam, which is Wahhabism, which has a duty and a mandate to spread Wahhabi Islam by whatever means necessary, by sword or by shield, by funding institutions in multiple nations. So to me, this isn't very surprising, based on what I know of Saudi Arabia, and what I know of UK Islamist extremism as a whole. But let's continue. Britain has close, long-standing, and sometimes controversial relationship with Saudi Arabia, birthplace of Islam, and today the world's biggest oil producer and exporter. Annual bilateral trade is worth billions of pounds. UK's exports to Saudi Arabia, notably in defence, employ thousands of people in both countries, and there is close cooperation on counter-terrorism. But UK and US supplied warplanes and munitions are being used by the Royal Saudi Air Force to bomb targets in Yemen, sometimes resulting in civilian casualties.
Just monitor, I was going to tag you, dude. It's a 1600 by 900, but still. It's for that one dude's computer that he wanted to on.
Saudi Arabia also has a much criticized human rights record. This has prompted calls from some, including Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn, for an arms embargo on Saudi Arabia. That I can approve.
Corbyn Dallas? The Lou Dallas multipass?
Yeah, he'd need to be about 40 years younger.
Look at this.
And he's also a communist.
Oh. Corbyn loves communism. No. He fought the space communists, basically. Kind of.
They weren't. They were space terrorists.
All of the above.
They weren't really communist.
They wanted everything to be
They were
equal for
mercenaries.
everybody.
No, they didn't.
Yeah, they wanted everything equally for everyone. They wanted everyone to die equally.
No, they didn't. They just wanted people to die for one reason, for them to make money. They were just paid mercenaries.
Also communists. They wanted everyone to die so they could make money. They just used everyone else. That's communism.
They weren't communist.
Yeah.
Look at that, Bay City, Michigan yard sale.
Is that what that is? Basically, Michigan yard sale. Is that really?
The Bay City, Michigan sale.
That's pretty funny. I was looking at this house. Great.
Reasonable. Let's see. But Theresa May has spoken of the economic and security benefits of this alliance and has pushed for closer ties with Britain's Gulf Arab partners. In a statement, the Saudi embassy in London said any accusations that the kingdom had radicalized a small number of individuals are baseless and lack credible evidence. Sure, they do, Saudi Arabia. And it pointed out that the country itself has been subject to numerous attacks by Al-Qaeda and so-called Islamic State. That's what they call themselves. It added, "We do not and will not condone the actions or ideology of violent extremism, and we will not rest until these deviants and their organizations are destroyed." But of course, because it hurts your message.
We don't negotiate with terrorists.
I mean, if you can get in peacefully by taking over cities and towns and governments to spread your ideology to the masses.
Kenneth, we have to do that. We have to use that strategy for the new group.
Oh, God.
Oh, yes.
It'll be a bloodless coup with the country taken over by radical Islam. It'll destroy
Radical man.
one of the greatest countries for democracy the world has known.
Which country is that?
The UK. I mean, it is a force for democracy.
Is it? I thought we were the best democracy.
I mean, America is the best, but the UK is where we came from.
That's true. Well, yeah. Because we came from it before was democracy. They stole that from us.
Well, they were a constitutional republic since about, the Magna Carta.
Were they a constitutional republic? They were still
well,
under
the
monarchy
Magna
whenever
Carta
we seceded
was
from them,
one of the
basically.
first constitutions, supposedly, which put a limit on the king's power. I'm not sure exactly when the House of Lords and House of Commons were devised, but that was essentially the first bit of tampering down of monarch power.
If I could wear that.
Yep. Let's see. Home Office said it was determined to cut off the funding for extremism, but it declined to comment on the think tank's report. BBC's Frank Gardner said the report's release comes at a sensitive time, with Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Bahrain and Qatar all accusing Bahrain and Egypt all accusing Qatar of supporting extremism. A charge the report says is hypocritical.
You hypocrites!
I mean, the report's not wrong if it says that.
What's the hypocrites?
Yeah, they're hypocrites for accusing Qatar of supporting terrorism. Well, that's for supporting terrorism and extremism.
Yep.
The think tank also accuses Qatar of links to terrorism, which it denies. Arab foreign ministers are calling for a meeting in Cairo on Wednesday to discuss possible further sanctions on Qatar, while the Qatari foreign minister will be making his own country's case at a press conference in London. Worrying links. Endorsing the report, Labour's MP Dan Jarvis said it shed light on very worrying links between Saudi Arabia and the funding of extremism. He called for the government to release its report on foreign funding. In the wake of terrible and tragic terrorist attacks we have seen this year, it is vital that we use every tool at our disposal to protect our communities. This includes identifying the networks that promote and support extremism and shutting down the financial networks that support it. He said the proposed Commission for Countering Extremism, a new body intended to expose examples of extremism in civil society, should make the foreign funding of UK institutions a priority. Prime Minister Theresa May, who visited Saudi Arabia in April, has insisted UK's historic relationship with the Desert Kingdom is important for British security and trade. Labour leader Corbyn has called for the immediate suspension of UK arms export to Saudi Arabia because of its human rights record and involvement in military actions in Yemen, where they are bombing civilians in Yemen and beheading apostates and non-believers in Saudi Arabia.
Death to the non-believer! Stop watching that. I'm watching that. I forgot about that. Anyway.
It's your story now.
Is it my story now? Okay.
So I'm going to watch that.
Good shit.
I paused. Sadness.
I did? Oh, it did. Because I clicked out of it. I got you, fam. Don't worry. This dude looks like hilarious. It looks like... I'm so pretty. Well, I'm running with this KK.
A classic Kalishnikov vehicle.
U.S.-led airstrikes killed 224 civilians in Raqqa. Monitoring group says 38 children among the civilian victims of U.S.-led coalition air raid since June 6th. Yep, doesn't surprise me. At least 224 civilians have been killed in U.S.-led coalition airstrikes since the Syrian forces it backs entered ISIL's stronghold of Raqqa a month ago, the monitoring group said. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, SOR, said on Thursday that at least 38 children and 28 women were among their air raid victims, adding that it did not have a toll for civilians killed in other ways, including by other military operations, mines, or while trying to flee the city. Arab and Kurdish fighters from the Syrian Democratic Forces, SDF, broke into Raqqa on June 6 after a months-long operation to encircle the Islamic State of Iraq and the Lebanon ISIL, also known as ISIS, group in the northern city. SOR said clashes and airstrikes in Raqqa had killed 311 ISIL fighters and 106 SDF fighters since June 6. Tens of thousands of civilians are believed to be trapped inside Raqqa, with warnings that the armed group is using them as human shields. Many Raqqa residents who have managed to escape, so ISIL snipers are targeting anyone trying to leave the city. The U.S.-backed coalition is providing the SDF's campaign on Raqqa with heavy air support, as well as special forces advisors with weapons and equipment. Since ISIL captured Raqqa in early 2014, it has served as the de facto capital of the armed group's Syrian territory. And that is all. That's all here, folks. As Ken continues to watch old-ass Naruto. Now I'm going to continue watching old-ass Naruto. Let me see. Is there any love here? No love.
No, nobody loves us.
Baby, don't hurt me.
France to make vaccinations mandatory from 2018, as it is unacceptable. Children are still dying of measles.
Really, it's kind
Well,
of
not
like
wrong.
it's
It is-
finally
It is unacceptable.
we had mandatory like vaccinations for a while. I mean, mandatory to go to public school.
Yeah, for the most part.
So I guess they didn't? Question mark.
I guess not. Excuse me for a moment.
Edouard Philippe. Fucking France. Francois. Chick sent me an audio clip. I don't think that's important though.
Okay.
I'll have to show you later.
Parents in France will be legally obligated to vaccinate their children from 2018, the government has announced. French Prime Minister Edouard Philippe had said it was unacceptable that children are still dying of measles in the country where some of the earliest vaccines were pioneered. 3 childhood vaccines from diphtheria, tetanus, and polio are currently mandatory in France, including those against hepatitis and whooping cough, are simply recommended.
I mean, you should probably get your children vaccinated. I mean, it might save their life.
I mean, just being horribly crippled and having brain damage from whooping cough or measles or
I
chicken
forgot
pox.
to go Super Saiyan here.
Permanent brain damage from chicken pox.
Permanent brain, is that a thing?
It's a thing.
I guess it's because of the fever.
Yeah.
Yeah, the fever will fucking cockrock your brain no matter what.
Yeah.
That's like, it happens all the time to people. But, no. It's pretty BA.
Announcing the policy, Mr. Philippe evoked the name of Louis Pasteur, the French biologist who made breakthroughs in disease research and developed the first vaccines for rabies and anthrax in the 19th century. He said all the vaccines which are universally recommended by health authorities, 11 in total, would be compulsory. This move follows a similar initiative in Italy, which recently banned non-vaccinated children from attending state schools. The World Health Organization has warned of a major measles outbreak spreading across Europe, despite the availability of safe, effective vaccines. I wonder why. The anti-vax movement, I wonder why, whose followers are known as anti-vaxxers, are believed to have contributed to the low rates of immunization against the highly contagious disease in a number of countries. A recent survey found that more than 3 out of 10 French people don't trust vaccines, with just 52% of participants saying the benefits of vaccines outweigh the risks. There were 79 cases of measles reported in France in the first 2 months of 2017, mostly due to an outbreak of 50 cases in the northeastern Lorraine region, according to the European Centre for Disease Prevention and Control. Okay. In the beginning of 2018 to the end of 2016, more than 24,000 cases of measles were declared in France, official figures show. Of these, 101,500 had serious complications, and there were 10 deaths. In a modern first world nation, no children should die of measles. Oh, that looks nice. It's completely preventable. The vaccination is not mandatory in Britain, and around 24,000 children a year in England are not immunized against measles, mumps, and rubella. Fear surrounding the combined inoculation for the 3 infectious diseases, known as MMR, stem in part from a discredited study claiming to show a link between the jab and autism. The paper published in and that's the thing, it is ridiculous. 20 years, every time that the MMR or any vaccines come up, it must be discussed that it came from a paper called The Lancet. 20 years ago, from a disgraced, banned doctor called Andrew Wakefield. It is ridiculous. He has left a 20-year legacy and is responsible for the death of tens to hundreds of thousands of children.
Same.
Which led to the heavy fall among uptake and parents at the time, but exhaustive scientific research has now disproved the theory. 2 children in the UK have died of measles since 2006, and in 2013 a young man from Wales died of the disease. All a waste of life.
That's not too bad. I'm sure there's more than that in America.
Well, I'm sure it's more around the world, but in just these countries alone.
Yeah.
It says told doctors at the British Medical Association annual meeting last month. The BMA is calling for evidence to be submitted to the UK government on the potential advantages and disadvantages of childhood immunization made mandatory under the law. Patrice Lorenz, the Italian health minister, has said falling vaccination rates in the country was an emergency generated by fake news. And 12 vaccines would be compulsory for children.
Why is the fake news thing everywhere? Everything's fake news. I mean, it might be fake news,
it's the buzzword of the year.
Yeah, I know. It's just like fake news.
Which they're not wrong.
Everyone counts everything to fake news, though. Even if stuff's right, it's fake news. I mean, that was us. Trump is the reason why. But
yeah, Trump's the reason why. Yep.
Sure now.
12 vaccines would be compulsory for school children aged up to 16. So does that mean children older than 16 don't need the vaccines? Or if they don't get them, will your school just kick them out? So again, 16 good enough. Cases of measles rose more than 5-fold across Italy in April compared to the same month last year, according to the National Health Institute's figures. This alarming resurgence of the disease has been blamed on the anti-vaccination stance of the populist 5-star movement. That sounds vaguely communist.
What? Populist 5-star movement? It's M5S.
I think it sounds communist. Which took a quarter of the votes in the country's 2013 general election. Apparently packets of cigarettes will also rise in France from 7 to 10 euros.
That's a random bit of information at the end
tacked
there.
on.
It's like, yep.
But I mean, this is ridiculous. A doctor has led to the death of tens to hundreds of children for something published. And think of it. It's not only that he published a false, study in a major medical journal, but that for the past 20 years, scientists have worked tirelessly to debunk his theory, his claim. That's 20 years of medical science that could be going into curing other diseases entirely. 20 years of progress that has been delayed by a man in his attempt to make money.
Yep. However, I will have to say that in that 20 years that something could have been done, it's probably being done anyway. It probably doesn't really take too many people off.
But that's the thing. You take all that money that went into all this research. Oh, something like this.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I was like, oh, this is cool. Now carry on. As you just got off track.
They spent hundreds, millions, possibly even billions dollars over 20 years just making these, doing these studies, running these tests. That's hundreds, that's millions of dollars that could be going against cancer or other diseases. I don't know, prostate cancer, AIDS, HIV, etc. That's interesting.
I just scroll through. This is why I just get stuck on Facebook. So I'll scroll through and I'm like, oh, that's cool. Oh, that's neat. Oh, that's cool. Oh, look at that meme. Oh, hey. Yeah.
It's just outrageous. Anyways, that was my rant on vaccines. Continuing on.
No, not like this. Maybe we don't. Oh, get this picture though. Not like this.
No. Bad.
Holy shit, this text is so small. Oh my god, there's so much shit here.
And I mean, you can skim and cut it where you please.
Okay, let me see. Erdogan! All I saw was Erdogan. Erdogan again in Darbs. A new report in Sweden. Oh, Twiz, it's your people, man. A new report in Sweden reveals Erdogan orchestrated July 15th coup in Turkey. Well, we kind of knew that, right?
No.
No?
No.
Didn't I tell you that he probably did it?
I mean,
I said something like that at the time.
maybe.
I feel like I did.
But I mean, no. This is among the first time hearing of it.
And I'm over here does not surprise me.
I mean, it doesn't surprise me either, considering what we know about the coup and how it was rather indistinct, small group of military, poorly organized.
So wait, he's mad at all the coup people and trying to get them to go in?
He used the coup as a cover to take out opponents.
Yeah.
And seize power.
Yeah. Which is what we knew.
It was literally, and I can't believe I'm about to say this.
Yeah, I know.
It was
I'm
a
about
false
to read.
flag.
I'm about to read it too. I can't believe this. I'm just going to tell you that stuff actually happens, whether or not you believe it.
I mean, the CIA did some shit and
CIA's done tons of shit.
Do
you know
the CIA is opposed democratically elected leaders all the time?
No. Not only that, but every couple of years, a couple of years ago, they unclassified all documents and released them to the public about shit they did. They fucked. Where was it? Where did we put that causeway in Central America? Yes. We did bad shit in Panama. I read through the entire document.
Years ago.
Huh?
Panama was 100 years ago.
Was it 100 years ago?
Yeah. They just recently had their 112th anniversary or something.
Was it Panama? It was some Central American country where we did really bad
Nicaragua?
shit.
It's probably Nicaragua.
Was it Nicaragua? I don't know.
Nicaragua.
Oh no! You know what it was? There was a thing about the Oakland City bombings or whatever. One of the bombings of a big building, one of those multi-story buildings, happened in before we were born. 80s?
The fertilizer bombing?
No, the one in the 80s. The Unibomb. No, it wasn't. It was the one in the 80s that happened on a giant multi-level office building near a beach. Building? I thought it was the Oakland City thing or the whatever. It's where half
Oklahoma City.
Yeah, that's what I thought it was. The Oakland City.
Well, if it was Oklahoma City, there's two. There was a Cessna, a small plane, flown into the building, and there was a fertilizer bomb, which was driven into the underground parking lot.
It's the one where only half of the building collapsed, basically.
I think it was the fertilizer bomb.
Probably the fertilizer bomb. But yeah, I think there was things about that in there, and I was like, what? And that was from what? When was that? That was like in the 70s, 80s, right?
Let me just,
I don't know.
I'll Google it really quick.
I don't remember which one of these things were, but there was some bad shit. It's like, yeah, we killed some people in the name of freedom.
Let's see.
Which one is it? Let me see if the picture. I need a picture of the building. I can remember which one it was.
Oh, there it is. Yeah, fertilizer bomb, Oklahoma City. I'm on a list now. I looked up fertilizer bomb.
Yeah, I think that was it. I'm not sure.
Yeah, that took happened in 95. So, literally.
That was in 95?
Yes, it was the date, April 19th,
Yeah.
1995.
It was something way sooner than that. Because, like, people wouldn't have... Actually, people might have forgot about that by now.
No, people haven't forgotten about the Oklahoma City bomber.
We're never going to let go of...
There's a bomb that blows up half of a government building.
We're never going to forget 9/11, though.
Of course not. 9/11 changed everything, man.
Kind of, I guess.
And I mean, it did ram through the Patriot Act.
Yeah. We definitely amplified our America that day.
Now, let's see. Conspiracy theories. A variety of conspiracy theories have been proposed about the events surrounding the bombing. Some theories alleging that individuals in the government, including President Bill Clinton, knew of the impending bombing and intentionally failed to act on that knowledge. Other theories focus on initial reports by local news stations of multiple other unexploded bombs within the building itself as evidence of remnants of a controlled... Everybody's like controlled demolition. Following the attack, search and rescue operations at the site were delayed until until the area had been declared safe by the Oklahoma City Bomb Squad and federal authorities. According to both a situation report compiled by FEMA and a memo issued by the United States Atlantic Command the day following the attack, a second bomb located within the building was disarmed while a third was evacuated. Further theories focus on additional conspirators involved with the bombing. Additional theories claim the bombing was carried out by the government in order to frame the militia movement or to provide the impetus for new anti-terrorism legislation using McVeigh's as a scapegoat. Other conspiracy theories suggest that foreign agents, particularly Islamic terrorists, but also the Japanese government or German neo-Nazis, were involved in the bombing. Experts have disputed the theories, and government investigations have been open at various times to look into the theories.
The fucking Nazis.
The Japanese!
Dude, they were too busy making anime at that time. Come on.
Yeah, they're making the best anime.
Yeah, I'll give you that. Dude, Sunrise. I didn't know this, but Sunrise, like, they went out of business, I thought, and it actually still exists. They make still great anime. Sunrise is the people behind Cowboy Bebop, I think, Outlaw Star, most of the Gundam series. It's basically everything that's good in space related. Yes! Oh, and they're behind Evangelion, which is also space robot. Anyway. Whatever. Carrying on to the fucking thing. Last year's failed coup attempt in Turkey is nothing but a false flag orchestrated by Turkey's autocratic president Recep Tayyip Erdogan.
Can we just define autocratic for just a moment?
Huh?
Autocratic. Relating to a ruler who has absolute power. Taking no account for other people's wishes or opinions. Domineering. Basically, a dictatorship.
Anyway.
I just wanted to define that for people. So that way they knew that it's basically, it is a dictatorship.
And his henchmen to create a pretext for a mass persecution of critics and opponents in a state of perpetual emergency. A new detailed study titled July 15, Erdogan's Coup by Stockholm Center for Freedom concluded. Based on publicly available data, the coup indictments, testimonials in court trials, private interviews, reviews of military expert opinions, and other evidence collected by researchers, SCF is fairly confident this attempt did not qualify as a coup bid in any sense of military mobilization, which was unusually limited in numbers, confined in few cities, poorly managed, defied the established practices, tradition, rules of engagement, and standard operating procedures in Turkish military. This was a continuation of a series of false flags that were uncovered in the last couple of years under the authoritarian rule of Erdogan regime. And it was certainly the bloodiest one, said Abdullah Bozkurt, the president of SCF. Erdogan appears to have tapped on widely circulated coup rumors in Turkish capital and staged own show to steal wind and set up his position for a persecution, he added. Judging from the results of the coup bid, Erdogan won big time by securing imperial presidency, consolidating his gains, stifle the opposition, and even launching cross-border military incursion into Syria, for which he had been enticing for too long. No wonder why he immediately called the attempt as a gift from God. The report was originally published in Turkish. SCF plans to release an English edition soon with new changes and updated data. Here are some of the findings from the 191-page detailed report on what happened on July 15th, 2016, and the days leading to that. So many bullet points. I know. Let's pick something. Huge gap has emerged between facts and the government's narrative on coup bid, despite intense efforts by Erdogan's regime in the form of censorship, propaganda, pressure, threats, and even torture and ill treatment. Testimonials from defendants and evidence that was uncovered so far has further bolstered the view that the coup attempt was nothing but a setup. There was conflicting public accounts by Erdogan, the fact the head of the Turkish intelligence, Hakan Fidan, was tipped off about the coup in advance, according to his own written statement sent to the parliament. But he neither informed the Prime Minister nor the President, strengthened the claim that the coup bid was totally staged. Yep. Against the background of chief and effective testimony, respect witness judicial in the coup attempt, he has no show to the Parliament. The fact that Intel head Dick Balls, the top military met with top military officials for hours a day before the coup, as well as on the coup. Chief of General Staff made conflicting statements. Yeah, basically,
there's a lot here.
Basically, there's an independent group that came in. It's not even like any real like allegiance to any country that came in. Did this?
I checked into them. They're like lawyers and like journalists from Turkey who have been like, if you click on the About Us.
Just fucking archered you, bitch. Anyway.
AAC. They're an advocacy organization which promotes the rule of law, democracy, and fundamental rights and freedoms with a special focus on country.
On country.
A country with 8 million citizens experiencing a dramatic climb in parliamentary democracy. It's a non-profit group set up by journalists who have been forced to live in self-exile in Sweden. Against the background of a massive crackdown on freedom of press in Turkey, where 191 journalists have been in jail, and close to 200 media outlets have been shuttered in a series of arbitrary decisions taken by Turkish authorities.
Alright, moving on. Fuck off.
This is kind of funny.
Oh yeah, see, I saw this. I read something about this like a minute ago, dude. Right before you sent this to me. I knew. I saw about this. It was trending on the Twitter. I laughed.
So, Trump couldn't find a hotel to book for the G20.
Oh wait, no, that was that? Oh no, I was reading something about there was like thousands of protesters and like...
Oh no, there aren't thousands of protesters. People always protest the G20 and the G8.
Oh really?
It's a given.
Oh,
It's just a bit of funny news. President Trump was left without a luxury hotel to stay at for the G20 summit in Hamburg, Germany, this week after White House officials waited too long to book a hotel. It's like, did they not know when it was? Did somebody just come to them from the G20? It's like, hey, it's going to be 2 days from now. Book a hotel. It's like, what the fuck? The U.S. initially sought to accommodate Trump at the local Four Seasons Hotel, only to find it was already fully booked by Saudi Arabia's King Salman.
What an asshole.
Well, that's how it works. Is that these governments come in and they book the entire hotel as a security precaution because they're world leaders. You know, you don't want civilians in your hotel. That's a security risk.
Yeah, but you can't let other like world leaders stay in your hotel and have a fucking gay old time?
No, they do.
Oh.
It's one that does. Other luxury hotels around Hamburg were similarly booked up by key figures. The G20 summit, which was announced February 2016, so it was literally announced last year, requires 9,000 hotel rooms to accommodate world leaders, staff, and security details. That's roughly about 450 rooms per country, give or take. The Trump will reportedly stay at Hamburg's Senate guest house for the summit, with the U.S. Consulate General hosting his staff. The Hotel Reichshof was taken by the Vietnam's delegation. Russian President Vladimir Putin was staying at Arcayet, and the Grand Elise was booked by Chinese President Xi Jinping and Italian Prime Minister Paolo Gentiloni. So, see, two countries, they could share the Grand Elise.
That's weird because it's China and in Italy. Maybe it's like everybody hates us. We are both assholes.
They probably have good food together, though.
Maybe, I don't know. Are there dogs and cats nearby? Damn.
Oh, because we covered a story last week of the dog festival thing going on.
Yep. Also, it was pretty good segue there. I love that. It was beautiful. Kim says North Korea's nukes are not on negotiation table. Well, of course not.
You want to just play the video because it's a long ass.
Is there a video?
Yeah, click on that. Just click on that. And then.
Oh yeah, that's stupid shit.
Yeah, you got to do that. Kind of stuff.
At least I can allow it. So we're gonna roll the video and that's it. Cool.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I'm gonna work on the other stories.
Good evening. We begin tonight with the growing international anxiety over the escalating North Korea crisis. The U.S. says the world has become a more dangerous place after Pyongyang tested its first intercontinental ballistic missile.
Shit.
The threat was hanging over Donald Trump as he and the First Lady arrived in Poland for a brief visit before heading to Germany for the G20 summit. And what to do about North Korea has now moved to the top of the summit's agenda as CTV.
Totally froze the video by loading all these tabs. I'm gonna go ahead and pull these stories over real quick before we continue the video because I broke the video on most basically by doing that.
Tom Walters reports while most leaders are urging diplomacy, the White House isn't ruling out a military response.
Oh, no, we got CCTV.
Oh shit. And then we got closed captions is advised.
Closed caption provided
There is
by
nothing
viewers like
unusual
you.
about a countdown before a missile test. And yet, in a video released by North Korea today, there is something ominous about time running out. And this missile, the first that could reach North America, is giving new urgency to the Korean crisis.
Time is short. Action is required. The world is on notice.
At an emergency meeting of the UN Security Council today, American Ambassador Nikki Haley said if the world doesn't act, the U.S. will use the force it has. Military if it must, economic where it can.
We will look at any
Kyrgyzstan should be
country
right there.
that chooses to do business with this
Yes, we need to
outlaw
represent our
regime.
glorious
Of course,
Kyrgyzstan
there is
people.
one country, China,
That's
that
what we should
accounts
do.
for nearly
We should
90%
get
of North
Kyrgyzstan
Korea's
flag
trade.
flying behind us.
So it's China the world is counting on to enforce
Already green.
sanctions meant to stop North Korea's nuclear
Hopefully I can
program.
see that.
But citing a number released by the Chinese government itself, Donald Trump today
He's got a
tweeted
nice
his disappointment.
Kyrgyzstani flag.
Dude, that-
Trade between China
almost
and
looks
North
like that
Korea
mic's in
grew
his fucking
almost
mouth right there.
40% in the first quarter.
Oh.
So much for China working with us, but we had to give it a try. Haley says the U.S. will soon introduce a UN resolution seeking even tougher sanctions. And when Russia's ambassador balked, Haley dared him to vote against it.
If you are happy with North Korea's actions, veto it.
But while much of the world today stressed the need for calm words, South Korea met the shrill propaganda of the North with some of its own. A lurid video animation showing how it would attack Pyongyang, ultimately leaving it in flames. In fact, there
Did you watch the video? It just said that South Korea attacked back with their own propaganda video showing animations of exactly how it would destroy Pyongyang, and I was like, it sounds like they had one of our people come in like, all right, we're gonna do what America does to people. Illegal. Is the Kyrgyzstani flag like supposed to be kind of like
There we go. We'll have that.
the flying Kyrgyzstani
We'll get
flag?
we'll get a poll. We'll just have the flying Kyrgyzstani flag.
I mean, it would need to be. Well, shit. It's hard to chroma key. I guess I'd have to chroma key out the blue, but it's not all one color. Isn't actually a Kyrgyzstani flag flying over there on the other picture, the top right?
Yes, it is.
Bro.
That is-
I think it's a really shittily Photoshop one. No?
No, that's actually the Kyrgyzstani flag.
Who the fuck is flying a Kyrgyzstani flag?
Let's find out.
What? Oh no, is that Chan?
That's.
What's that?
For plebs. Whatever the hell that is.
I guess that's the new 4chan.
Oh!
What?
That was off of He Will Not Divide Us. Yes!
What
I
was that?
approve.
What was that?
So Shia LaBeouf did a So Shia LaBeouf in New York was like whenever Donald Trump came, like he's like He Will Not Divide Us, and they did a big chant, whatever. And then he got with like a museum of media in New York, and he had a camera broadcasting 24/7, and saying He Will Not Divide Us. So
Yeah.
basically people could come together, whatever, talk.
Yeah, it's the one that they moved around and did stuff
Yeah,
like
they
that.
move around. Well, in this case, 4chan looked at like fucking airline patterns and flight patterns and shit, like days and night, moons. They got
They got all
CSI
CSI and shit on it.
Like literally, they matched like airline patterns with like star charts and shit.
You know, if people put that much effort into something so fucking stupid, I'm sure we could have easily found all those missing planes and all that other shit. I'm serious.
Well, 4chan has found terrorist locations.
4chan has, really? Huh?
There's a whole thing. It was an operation they did when back in the day. And then, like, when the Iraq War was still going on, they're like, so they coordinated the video going on here. They checked what was in the background. They corroborated the satellite imagery from what they could view on town. They looked at, like they fucking mapped it out. And then they're like, yeah, they're right there.
Did the U.S. government go?
Yeah, U.S. government checked it out and they actually bombed it.
Nice.
And then they're like, oh, there you go. So yeah, 4chan puts a lot of work into shit. In this case.
They put a lot of work into super
He had a
cancer.
flag flying, Shia LaBeouf had a flag flying that said He Won't Divide Us. So in the middle of the night they went up and then flew the Kakistani flag.
That's pretty funny.
Oh, Kakistan.
What is the Kakistani thing? So it was a He Will Not Divide Us and they changed it to the Kakistani flag.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty funny. I think this is the end of the
There is so much firepower on the Korean Peninsula, Bev, that U.S. Defense Secretary James Mattis has said that combat, if it ever came to that, would be catastrophic.
Every country seems to be condemning North Korea.
there's not a lot of shit. Whatever. Yeah. North Korea doing North Korea things. I mean, we want to wipe them off the face of Earth. It's going to get to where it's going to be just like I said. We're just going to wipe them off the face of the planet, and then nobody's going to give a shit except for maybe Russia. China's just going to sit there and let it happen. Russia's going to be like, fuck you guys. And we're just going to be like... Basically, that gif I posted earlier of the machine gunner with the fucking middle finger, that's going to be us shooting at all of the North Koreans while Russia's yelling at us. Alright. Your turn, bitch.
You don't have to read anything, you can just play the video.
What video? Well,
This is kind of long.
this is fucking super long. Alright, Killdeer. U.S. missile shield not yet ready for North Korean nukes. Alright, I'm done with the story. That is literally, whatever.
Pentagon and its contractors still haven't figured out how to reliably shoot down an ICBM like the one recently tested by North Korea.
I don't think that's correct.
This is the Pentagon and its contractors saying it. It's straight from the Pentagon. It says right here, tens of billions of dollars spent over 3 decades have still left the Pentagon with no reliable way to shoot down nuclear-tipped missiles approaching the U.S. homeland. A vulnerability that takes on sharp new urgency and